what we thought was going to be like a 3-hour mission that morning turned into 3 straight days of constant fighting all day, all night as the Iraqi army.
No sleep.
During my time there, really. But so we're working with this Iraqi army unit. So, but then...
Are we back right after the tunnels now?
Yeah, we're back after the tunnels. And so then the Iraqi army that we were with, we were not expecting this to happen. Basically, they were ordered to... So if you look at the map there of Mosul as the Iraqi army is pushing from south to north on the west side, basically the Iraqi army couldn't move any farther forward because ISIS has all of their troops right there. So the Iraqi army could advance forward, but they're taking just massive casualties. They need a second front to open. And the only unit that was available to open a second front in Mosul and the upper west hand on the upper west side was this Iraqi army unit that we were with. And so we weren't told this was happening. We didn't realize this was happening. But basically, we wake up one day and it's happening. And we were on the outskirts of Mosul. We knew that we were kind of there. We didn't really understand what the Iraqi army objective was. But we get up one morning and we think so the way the Iraqi army would fight is they'd get up in the morning, they'd attack like a little bit after dawn, after tea time. They would fight till like noon and they're like, cool, we're going to call it a day. Let's have some lunch. Maybe in a couple of days we'll go again. Just a very sort of predictable, interesting cadence, you know? And so that's kind of what we expected. So we wake up one morning and the Iraqi, we're sort of, we're a couple miles from Mosul and the Iraqi army, so we're following along with them. And they brought in multiple units, not just like one brigade of an armored unit. They brought in like an entire division of armored units. So it's like 4 or 5 times the size. So now instead of like 10 tanks, we're dealing with like 40 tanks and BMPs and armored vehicles. And they line up on the upper west-hand side of upper left-hand side there. Up in the upper left-hand corner, there's a place called Musharifa. Right there. You see Musharifa?
Left.
A little bit to your left, right there. That's it, right there. So there's an open field there. Yeah, you can see the open field. Between the left and right. So right where your cursor is. And the Iraqi army lined up all their tanks right there.
So this is just south of the Tigris River, basically.
Yeah, where it turns. And they just did a full-blown World War II style online assault directly at the ISIS positions there in Musharifa. And so we didn't know this was happening until it was happening. And so
you're in the middle of it.
And we're in the middle of it. So they line up, they start firing, they attack. We're on foot behind these tanks. ISIS, of course, they immediately open fire and they start sending out car bombs and mortars and stuff like that. And there's landmines everywhere. So some of the tanks would hit landmines and they'd blow up and they'd blow off a track. And we're treating the wounded. And as soon as we got to the edge of the city, civilians were like, yo, this is our chance. Let's get the hell out of here. And so civilians by the thousands just started running out of the city across that open field to get to safety. And occasionally, ISIS would, if they were in a position, ISIS would just start shooting. Mow them down. They'd start mowing them down, start shooting these civilians. And so basically we started treating civilians. And so what we thought was going to be like a 3-hour mission that morning turned into 3 straight days of constant fighting all day, all night as the Iraqi army struggled to, a couple hours here and there, but there's still bombs going off and artillery flying over your head. So like, are you sleeping? Like, no, not really. But yeah, for 3 straight days, the Iraqi army fought to get a foothold and open up that western front. And so then ISIS, of course, had to start moving some of their troops up there. And then that started this 30-day slog of just house to house, room to room, start clearing the ISIS guys out. And we were there the whole time, treating the wounded, treating the Iraqi soldiers. And
are you also in the midst of you are in the midst of the battle, but you're firing too, right?
Yeah. So there was, we're not the first ones through the door to clear the room.
Right.
We're back 50 meters. When the dudes in there get shot, we're treating them. Or when civilians are getting shot, we're treating them. So we're moving up. So we're very, very close.
But there aren't situations where you're moving from place to place where you're taking fire from...
Oh, no, there are.
So are you shooting back?
Absolutely. So there was so for example, one instance, there was a group of about 20 or 30 civilians. It was all women and children. And they were running to us to get to safety. I think this was on like day or 2 or 3. I don't remember of that initial few days. But there's a large crowd of them, and I start hearing the snaps from ISIS, snipers, snap, snap. So they're trying to shoot these moving civilians. And so my buddy Sky and I, he was a former Marine, we were like, oh, hell no. So we run out there, we get into a trench, and we kind of hear the general direction of the gunfire. So we start firing back at ISIS in sort of the general direction to draw the fire toward us. And so instantly the snipers, they stop shooting at the civilians and they start shooting at us. And so I'm in a trench and I watch the bullets impact, 3 or 4 feet to my left. And then the next bullet comes in and hits the dirt right in front of my face, splashes my face with dirt. I drop down, roll over, pop up 4 or 5 feet away, wait for the bullets to impact there, roll back, so you're kind of doing this, you're playing, you're playing whack-a-mole with these snipers. And of course this lasts maybe like 60 seconds or so. But when this happens, the civilians that we were basically, we were just trying to draw fire away from the civilians, and it worked. So ISIS starts shooting at us. And some of the civilians, they panic and they start running, which is kind of good because they're kind of all over the place. And then, so there's like women and kids like running right in front of my rifle as I'm firing between them. So there's like 3 feet separation, and I'm like, boom, boom. And they're running, I'm like, boom, boom. But it was very instinctual. It wasn't like I felt very like relaxed. Like, okay, I know exactly what I'm doing here. So like I'm firing. If they put their arm out in front of them, like I'm going to shoot their hand, right? Like I'm firing.
It's like they're crossing guard from hell.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm firing between them because some of them ran in front of us. Most of them were smart enough to run behind us. But these mothers, so like you want to talk about terror, these mothers are taking their little boys and girls that are, 1, 2, and they are physically, as they're approaching the trench that we're in, they're running as fast as they can. They're exhausted. They can't run very fast. They are physically taking their children and throwing them ahead of them 3 or 4 feet, just like a sack of potatoes, just throwing them at us to get their kids behind us into this trench.
Oh my God.
And so kids are just falling and, falling and jumping behind us. And then these women are jumping behind us in this trench. And like one lady, she tried to throw her kid, but she like fell off. Her balance was off or something. So she's like holding her kid by its ankle across her back as she's like running, trying to get to us. And so this kid is like hanging upside down, just bouncing along for the ride. So imagine the terror, imagine the fear of these mothers trying to save their kids,
it's
just throwing them. Yeah, and they're throwing them, and they only have 3 more feet to go. But they're still choosing to throw their children instead of running with them for those last 3 feet. Because ISIS was, like I said, gunning down civilians every chance that they got.
Care.
Yeah, so we were in a lot of situations like that.
And we definitely can't put the video on the screen for everyone else out there, but we'll tell you what do people Google to find that video?
Yeah, so if people just go to strongholdrescue.org and then just go to our media section
link
right
in
there.
Description.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the description of the video. Yeah.
For watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.